one of the earlier podcasts, I had mentioned this book called Voyage Around My Room, sometimes also titled as A Journey Around My Room. It's a really old book written by Xavier de Maistre. I'm sure the French pronunciation of the author's name would be slightly different, or rather, much different, but I'm sure you would excuse me for that. As you can see from the title, it's just a author's journey around his room. And considering that we are in the middle of a pandemic and often we are experiencing quarantines, I thought it would be a good idea to read some passages from this book. So, here we go. How many inquisitive people there are in the world. I'm sure my reader wants to know why the journey around my room has lasted 42 days rather than 43 or any other number. But how am I to tell him what I do not know myself? All I can say is that if the work is too long for him, it is not my fault that it was not shorter. I dismiss all the pride a traveller may fairly indulge in, and candidly declare I should have been well contented for my part with a single chapter. It is quite true that I made myself as comfortable as possible in my room. But still, alas, I was not my own master in the matter of leaving it. Nay, more, I even think that had it not been for the intervention of certain powerful persons who interested themselves in me and towards whom I entertain a lively sense of gratitude, I should have had ample time for producing a folio volume. So prejudiced in my favor were the guardians who made me travel around my room. And yet, intelligent reader, see how wrong these men were, and understand clearly, if you can, the argument I'm about to put before you. Can there be anything more natural or more just than to draw your sword upon a man who happens to tread on your toe, who lets slip a bitter word during a moment's vexation caused by your own thoughtlessness, or who has had the misfortune to gain favor in the sight of your lady love? Under such or like circumstances, you betake yourself to a meadow, and there, like Nicole and the bourgeois gentilhomme, you try to give the fourth cut while your adversary parries tears. And that vengeance may be fully satisfied, you present your naked breast to him, thus running the risk of being killed by your enemy in order to be avenged. It is evident that such a custom is most reasonable. And yet, we sometimes meet with people who disapprove of so praiseworthy a course. But what is about of a piece with the rest of the businesses that the very persons who condemned the course we have described and who would have it regarded as a grave error would judge still more harshly anyone who refused to commit it? The next chapter is for metaphysicians, and for metaphysicians only. It will throw a great light upon a man's nature. It is the prism with which to analyze and decompose the human faculties by separating the animal force from the pure rays of intellect. It would be impossible for me to explain how I came to burn my fingers at the very onset of my journey without expounding to my reader my system of the soul and the animal. And besides, this metaphysical discovery has so great an influence on my thoughts and actions that it would be very difficult to understand this book if I did not begin by giving the key to its meaning. Various observations have enabled me to perceive that man is made up of a soul and an animal. These two beings are quite distinct, but they are so dovetailed one into the other or upon the other that the soul must, if we would make the distinction between them, possess a certain superiority over the animal. I have it from an old professor that Plato used to call matter the other. This is all very well, but I prefer giving this name par excellence to the animal which is joined to our soul. This substance which is really the other and which plays such strange tricks upon us. It is easy enough to see in a sort of general way that man is twofold. But this, they say, is because he is made up of soul and body. And they accuse the body of I don't know how many things and very inconsistently, seeing that it can neither feel nor think. It is upon the animal that the blame should fall, upon that sensitive being which, while it is perfectly distinct from the soul, is a real individual, enjoying a separate existence with its own tastes, inclinations, and will, and which only ranks higher than other animals because it is a better educated than they and is provided with more perfect organs. Ladies and gentlemen, be as proud of your intellect as you please, but be very suspicious of the other, especially when you are together. I have experimented, I know not how oft, upon the union of these two heterogeneous creatures. I have, for instance, clearly ascertained that the soul can make herself obeyed by the animal, and that, by way of retaliation, the animal makes the soul act contrary to its own inclination. This one, as a rule, has the legislative, the other, the executive power, but these two are often at variance. The great business of a man of genius is to train his animal well in order that it may go alone, while the soul, delivered from this troublesome companion, can raise herself to the skies. But this requires illustration. When, sir, you're reading a book and an agreeable idea suddenly enters your imagination, your soul attaches herself to the new idea at once and forgets the book while your eyes follow mechanically the words and lines. You get through the page without understanding it and without remembering what you have read. Now, this is because your soul, having ordered her companion to read to her, gave no warning of the short absence she contemplated, so that the other went on reading what the soul no longer attended to.